business incubator, a business venture incubator. IoT as an area is very special area we can see because opportunities are big. While setups like FORGE and other incubators which are providing the complete technology infrastructure around that, I think they are doing a fantastic job where anybody who has a talent and knowledge, they will not be having depth of infrastructure or the technology know-how to bring out their product in the market. I think that's very important. On the other side, we as a business incubator, the startups who are working with setups like FORGE, we work with them in terms of getting them ready for the business venture. Because one thing we do realize that as a country it's a country of huge country of engineers. We are a lot of us are engineers who think engineering, we give us an engineering problem, we can solve like this. But you ask us to go and sell, ask us to do selling and maintaining solution, we don't do a good job of that. So that's what we do, prepare startups for more business venturing, and IoT is one of the key areas we do. So what I want to, I think today has been a very, very rich day. I must say, wish for that. What we have heard from since morning around IoT is a huge amount of knowledge that's come in, and I'm honestly struggling to figure out what value can I add in this audience to tell you more about what you already heard. So what I have, some key messages from, we incubate anywhere 20 to 30 startups I get to see every week, and a good percentage of these are IoT related. I get to see people are innovating new things. From an incubation perspective, when we look at, we incubate them for a longer period, 1.5 years of incubation, hands-on, get down with right from technology to business to market, everything we help them with. And what we are seeing on the ground with these guys, young kids trying to build a lot of stuff from India and take it to the globe, what's happening around that, some of the key messages, that's what I would want to share today. And I think I'm going to leave the IoT knowledge for with a lot of you. I think you already understood a lot more about it. I'm not going to touch on that. So I think this is my beginning message. IoT in India is a very, very big opportunity. And the reason I see is a big because the second point which to me is extraordinary. IoT today where it's at is a level playing field. When we talk about Western countries, we talk about other countries, we do not need legacy in IoT to excel. We need talent. A lot of things that had happened in past, look at the 20-25 years of history in terms of IT and other things. I think India had that disadvantage in terms of little lagging. We had got into the services business. One very good analogy, one of my senior when Infosys used to tell. When offshoring started, it is like water flowing in. And we as a nation, we build offshoring services like building buckets. So when the water is flowing, we have to be very efficient in building buckets. Good, nice, large buckets which can contain. And we build one after another quickly, all these buckets, put under the water flowing, and we collect a lot of water. But when the water started drying, all the skill set that were built is just in building buckets, not in terms of how to get the water. So when the water started drying, what we do with all these buckets, that's not useful. I need to have technology so I know how to draw the water. And we started lagging behind that. Now IoT is an area where if we have the right talent and we have the right will, we do not need a legacy. We can be number one. If you do it right, India can be the largest IoT hub in the world. And that opportunity does exist. A lot of time, the kids who come in and build this product, they don't realize that the opportunity they have in their hand. For them, a lot of these things are like toys, they're playing around with this entire field. But if you see the opportunity, the seriousness around it, what we can turn around the country, is enormous. And this is where, I think we heard a lot about this thing today, right? IoT is complex, but IoT is all about solutions. What we see around, floating around, people playing around with this thing, they do a lot with technologies. At least, that's what I mean. Barely 10% of IoT startups that come to us, they are building solutions. They are building stuff. They are building components. They are building individual things. They are not building solutions. And when we see it and we get into discussion, how we go to market, how we solve the problem, which industry, which customer, a lot of times they don't have the right answers. They know what their product does, they know what their technology does, they know what kind of thing they will, how will they manufacture, how they put it all together, but how exactly you will build a solution. Building solution is not engineering. Building solution requires a lot more focus around putting everything together to solve the problem. And we heard in the morning, it is about business solution. And this is where it's a ratio. This is what I'm telling you from data points, how I see a startup. 10% are the startups, only ones who barely will get this solution. Everybody else, a lot of them are building only technologies. And this is, I think in somewhere I would see as a sad news for us. While the opportunity is tremendous, one thing we do realize, and I'm sure we will collaborate with the data he sees on the ground. IoT, unlike software startup that we have seen in the previous era, is not a joke. You cannot take a computer, build a software, within 2 months, take it to market, build a big marketplace and start making $1 billion. Not going to happen. In IoT area, it's not going to happen. IoT will require two major things. One, the guys who are building the venture, and I'm specifically mentioning venture, I'm not talking about technology, I'm saying venture. It will require very good understanding of the supply chain of what you do, because IoT is a business in terms of industry. So the guys who are building venture, they need to have very solid grounding in terms of how do I manage the supply chain and the entire knowledge into the space. And the core technologies. Very sadly, a lot of time I see the young engineers who come in, many of them do not have very thorough knowledge of electronics, and many of them will come with a very superficial first level of knowledge, and very quickly they can put together Arduino board, put the switches, connected, nice Wi-Fi thing happening, good dashboard. Who will buy that? The surface level technology like this today is a commodity today, and that's what an example I was giving to Nat some time back. Smartwatches, 2.5 years back, a lot of startups used to come just building all these band smartwatches. Today, go to Alibaba Express, 1,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees, you can buy a smartwatch. What technology you require for that? You just need the intelligence to operate Alibaba Express, that's about it, right? So just what? A year and a half, startups who have invested into this area, where are they now? They are all disappeared. Nobody will buy it. You can't beat China into that area. That's the challenge. Now if you want to beat them, you got to get to next level of intent. You got to get the next level of excellence. We do not have that in area as yet in the country. And that's where I think what you mentioned about that, people who are not deep tech, very deep tech into that, right? They can be facilitated. I'm sure I think that kind of initiative will help them. But from our ground level, what we are realizing that the guy, somebody who went to run IoT venture, if they themselves do not have hardcore knowledge of IoT, it's going to be extremely challenging for them to put it off in the market. You got to have that. You cannot be an MBA, having a nice idea and outsource your technology work and become a big tech company. We are finding extremely challenging, and I'm telling you from the experience on the ground for the last 2 years. So these both things, one, a lot of time people will build this home automation solution, right? Put it together, sell nice cool stuff, growing thing, automating, controlling, and then you tell them what happens if it fails, who's going to support, who's going to give you after sales service. Sir, we're figuring it out. We'll let you know, right? As of now, we are selling retail solution, you buy from the other shelf, 200 rupees, 500 rupees. Now you sell it thousands. Just imagine success. Startup doing a home automation solution, deploys into 10,000 homes across the country. Anything fails in Madhya Pradesh, fails in Chennai, somewhere fails in Jammu Kashmir, who is going to support and do the after sales service? Then it becomes a use and throw model like China, right? Either you become China, that you buy it once and I don't care what happens, you have to buy one more. If it fails, that's it, use and throw. Now you cannot add to the garbage of electronics, we are already struggling with the problem. You cannot build solutions, so you have to use and throw. That's not a model we can follow in the green environment, right? So if you are building an IT solution, the day one when you have a venture idea in mind, you got to figure out supply chain and you got to figure out after sales service. It could be dirty, it could be boring, it could be really disgusting, but no, you cannot get into the market and succeed if you haven't figured out that stuff. Your IT solution could be very charming, it could be very fancy, but all these nonsense which need to go with the business, they are inevitable part of your business. If you haven't figured it out, IoT is not going to get into the market and you will make money on that, right? So these are harsh realities which startups need to imbibe when they build a venture. Now this is another, I think it's more or less stand that we have taken, and as we incubate and we look at the venture, we have started lowering in terms of taking intake of B2C companies, right? What we realized, B2C is a great fun. The consumer electronics which coming in, all these band, wearables, cool stuff which people are doing. Unfortunately, India, the way it will happen, how we see the future, these consumer side of it, they are not going to be much money making in the short run. Unfortunately, one generation of innovators who are building these kind of products will sacrifice their money and their time and entire career, everything, to create that foundation on which the next generation of guys who will come and build a venture will make money. The current set of guys probably not going to make money. So B2C is extremely challenging in India to make fun, and more so from because the use cases for B2C are largely built around convenience, experience. They're not what you call it, with vitamin versus exactly painkillers, right? So those all B2Cs are largely vitamins. If I don't have, I'm not going to die. Smartwatch. I mean, first of all, people don't even need watch nowadays, right? You have smartphones, good enough. On top of that, you have a smartwatch. So that is, if I don't have, nothing will stop in the world. I can still work efficiently and diligently and honestly as I require. I'm not ready, right? So that's not a painkiller. And that's the reason B2C segment will see huge struggle in next coming 5 years, both from investment perspective as well as scaling perspective. So that's in B2C. But if IoT has to succeed in the industry, it will only happen if the switching gear happens at the industry level, the businesses. No matter what we heard about in the morning, and I think Coimbatore is an area, fantastic the breeding ground where the industry can take up the new technology to innovate. Now what we have realized in the last 2 years, there's a huge innovation in industry. You talk about pump, motors, large factories, all these industrial areas. The challenge is for them, startups are big risk. So we are talking to some of the factory owners in terms of looking at the automation work. So one of our companies are represented here, KFX, I think you've seen the demo in the morning around that. The challenge they see that what happens if this startup pack their bag in 3 months and they go home. They can say, look, I'm done, I don't think we're interested in the business. Now if I'm a factory owner, having a large set of installation happening with your credible technology, but just after 3-4 months of operation, if you pack your bag and go, who's going to take care of all that? So they see a huge risk in terms of startup. Why they will like to work with likes of Intel, Honeywell and MediaTek and Analog Devices, because these are large companies. They're not going to fold up next day. They will be here for, they have been here for long and they will be there for long, right? That's where the comfort factor is. And that's the reason for IoT to get into the industry. This is where they're going to be that entire adoption process. Now, we heard in the morning, right? The gentleman from Sugana Pump said, I need a smart pump. So I need from somebody who can solve my problem. So problem does exist. They are willing to take a solution. But where do they find the gap? They find the credibility, reliability, the path to moving from a startup as a fuzzy entity. We don't know where these guys will land up in future. They'll get funded, not get funded. From them to be a well-formed businesses which have reliability, sustainability, and who can commit a business and take care of that thing, right? So that's the path when you see the death valley. If the things drop from there, the businesses are not, if they have bad experience, they will not give opportunity to start. And this is the area where we're trying to work through to figure out how businesses, without really risking too much into on their side, step by step are able to innovate new technologies. If the pump industry, they don't need to go there and day one completely replace all their pump. But can one business from the pump industry take up the first innovation from there, deploy as a pilot thing, and prove it within their association? It is safe. It works, it's fine, we use it for 6 months, right? If you don't have that kind of a test bed for startups to prove their technologies into industry, no matter how much you talk about trillion, billion, I think what we heard earlier, that is going to be only large companies who will claim that. Startups will not figure out. They are only going to be experimental better than them. So that industry is what is going to be the critical phase for startups to catapult into the actually being a real business rather than being experimental. And this is finally how we look at things in terms of what we see, what are these startups, what categories into. We clearly see 3 categories, right? And because IoT is popular, everybody talks IoT, and you name anything in IoT, everybody is doing around it. We see 3 levels. First level you find, and for us doing incubation, this matters a lot because that's how we filter and see where this guy comes in, who has come with this idea. First level you have all these makers play. Guys who have some bits of pieces, one switch, one wire, one board, whatever, doing something and they're learning. They're not ventures, they're not somebody doing something serious and they're going to become a business. So a lot of maker spaces are built around it where you are interested in knowing about it, you go put few things together, know how things work. So they are not ventures, they are just technology pieces. So you're building anything like this, more about learning, experimenting, and that's about it. That's the level 1 where a lot of maker spaces are here. Level 2, where the innovation is happening on the edge. They are still not big venture, they are still not full thing, but they are innovating technology pieces which solve an edge problem. Something which is in the bigger ecosystem, we will take care of one piece. This is where a lot of innovation labs are there. So if you look at FORGE kind of lab, will allow people who have a specific idea, they have come out with broken a barrier which exists in the industry today, and they will prove it, they will prototype it, take it to the level where now I'm ready with the technology. But you remember, that still is going to be a technology piece, that's not a venture. The third level, where we come in, which is you are talking about industry powered solution. Now this cannot happen without industry. Industry has to step in, they have to be integrated, they have to play a role into that. And this is where you build industry ready products. A lot of time when you go to industry people and you take your startup, first thing they look at it, are you industry ready? Yeah, I know it's a good technology, it is a cool thing, all that, but is it industry ready? Right from looking at installation to support to the deployment, fail safe, everything they look at it. And one of the very big factor in the IoT is you are talking about regulations. Surprisingly, we find many of the startups not even aware of regulations which are needed to certify their product. I mean, simple things like Wi-Fi, people think it's just normal stuff. Just take a Wi-Fi stuff, put it into your product and sell anywhere you want. But there are, and I think Intel had run some workshop which was eye-opener for us to also look at it. There are so much of compliance requirement. If you're taking a product which has a radio technology being used, you've got to have compliance taken care. But this is what the retail innovation, what we call it is a retail innovation. It has so popular that people just forget about saying, oh, who will take care of compliance? They don't bother. Just build a product, take it to some e-commerce website, sell it and let people buy that. But the day you're caught and then you have inspection and you have any of the compliance requirements, that's you're done. Then you'll be running in the loop with the government to figure out how to get out from there, right? So these are things where people take it very casually. They take it very easy because all is startup, it's all cool stuff to do, but these are hard stuff. You got to do compliance. So why I say 80-20? Because this is how funnel looks like. You will take the level 1, you will have 100 guys coming and experimenting, maybe 20 guys will be interested to take it from there and move on to the innovation there. That's the ratio they'll get to ultimately. They are serious. You will pick up 100 guys in this level, you'll find 20 of those, 20% will come into the next level. And then the next level will come in with the funding guys, 100 from there, the 20 will get funded. They will actually have solutions which is market ready, business ready, and finally have the things figured out. So everywhere your 80-20, 80-20 comes in and they look at the ratio. For you to get 100 products in final, getting funded and becoming a business, how many do you require from the top? This is where, from awareness perspective, from investment for early stage, from in terms of giving them a platform, because not everybody who's building a product will become a venture. That's the reality. So to get to that, you need many more things happening around that thing, which will help us to bring IoT, India becoming the IoT hub, a reality, all that thing will be done. And this is where I think the FORGE and the NASSCOMs of the world who are doing it, which are collectively doing all of it, not just taking care of one layer. So people like us who are selfish, in terms of the business interest, we might be looking at only one layer to enable, right? But this is where the other platforms are there who look after all other layers. People who are interested in building the knowledge, awareness, looking at the experiment, innovation, taking care of complete funnel. I think we are fortunate that in the country investments are happening in those areas to be able to create funnel much bigger so that the output that comes out is going to be valuable for us. And I want to know, you talked about CIBI thing, Vish, and I want to take this opportunity to also talk about just day before yesterday. Excubator had been working with CIBI for a while, and we have launched a platform which was announced by President of India. It was launched. This is the first national platform ever for complete ecosystem of startups, where you have startups, incubators, and you have investors, complete community coming on board with one single. And the whole intention is that with this type of platform, for the startups, the engagement with incubators and investor and the government scheme, everything is made much simpler. Because today, if you look at it, government spend huge amount of money in terms of coming out with the new scheme facilities. And when you talk to startups, they barely are even aware of. For them, government is a runaway business. They don't want to even get closer, don't know what they will get it, right? Even a simple loan takes 9 months for them to get. By the time the startups can fold and go home. So that's the type of mindset people have. But government is seriously intending to support wherever opportunity is there. Unfortunately, the whole intention, how the government had, the large part of the focus has been MSME. Even though government says, Modi says all the time startups, but when Modi says startup, it largely means MSME, which means the businesses. Because from a GDP perspective, if you look at it, the MSME contribution I think is somewhere close to 0.5%. This 0.5% if not wrong. And from a startup perspective, that is lesser than 0.03%. That's what the GDP contribution. The startups don't even influence today the economy. No matter how even all the startups do well, even then the influence on the total GDP is minuscule. And that is the game which has to change. That will change only when we are able to convert majority of our startups. Not all of them will become unicorn. Not all of them will become billion-dollar companies. But if you have large part of those portfolio of companies incubated, they will become MSMEs, smaller businesses. They are profitable, they are surviving, they are growing. Then the contribution to GDP from the startups coming in can be much more. And that's where the government will be more interested, because for them, GDP and economies are quite important. So I welcome all of you onto this platform, which well supported by DST. And there, if you are a startup, you are an angel investor, or if you are an incubator, and I'm glad that FORGE is onto this platform as well, then please do come register onto this platform. What we are trying to bring onto this platform is a one-click facilities for all of them to whatever be their role into the ecosystem, so that the discovery, the engagement, and the entire processing will become much easier. Government is also bringing, as you must have heard, that one-click registration for startup. From a mobile phone, put your data and then click, and that's it. One day you'll get registered, which is not a reality today. I mean, those who have registered your company would have seen how much drama it takes to finally get your company registered. And hopefully we'll get over all of that thing where we can focus more in terms of innovation and doing the real business than running around and trying to solve the problem which are not really a problem for us, right? So that's about it from my end. We'll be happy to take any questions or anything about related to incubation or anything I talked about.
What is MSME?
This is small and medium business sector.
It is an organ.
Sorry?
It is an organ.
No, these are, it is a category. MSME is for category.
In the federal.
It's an enterprise, which are the large enterprises and these are all the smaller.
For these IoT projects, okay, do you have any project roadmap?
What do you mean by
Implementation. See, we are planning to go IoT for processing and automation and some other petrochemical industry. So, the common platform is about how we need to go, how we need to reach the final target.
So I'm still not sure if I understand your question, but in terms of the right from the idea to moving up to the business, if you look at that's one part of the roadmap. You're saying I have some idea now. How do I get to the initial prototyping from the stage and MVP? So we do have our own methodologies that we as an incubation we follow. Because we start coming into the picture when already the startups have MVP, right? So if it's an idea stage, that's where the platforms like FORGE, where somebody can just walk in with idea, you can try your first things, build it and get ready. We start getting the picture when they have MVP and they are looking to get into the market from 6 months and within that period, right? So there we follow a methodology. How do you look at from product validation, from there getting into in terms of taking the market, and from there cleaning up all the necessary stuff, your accounting, your legal and your other necessary requirement, and then look at how do you start with the growth stage. That we do have.
Why do you think B2C not worked out?
See, I'll tell you the B2C, the reason which I was giving, the B2C, one, the consumer business itself is difficult. Look at the companies like Flipkart, Snapdeal, they are all B2C. Where do they spend their money? They don't spend their money in innovation and product. They spend their money into marketing. So reach to consumers are extremely difficult. That's one reason where if you are a startup, first of all, you don't have money. When you go to investors like native angels and you tell them that I need money for me to do marketing and I don't have my product ready yet, they are not interested in it, right? So they need you to be proving what your stuff is already there and people are using these things and then they will have the investment interest. Reaching out to consumers, businesses, you crack one big business. If I have a business with Intel, I crack one deal, I have good enough money for it. For the same amount of money, I got to crack thousands, maybe I don't know how many of your end consumers. Now the cost to market for that is too high. So unless you splurge too much of money into the marketing, B2C, that's one part. Second part is the use cases for B2C are still not, I would say, as a painkiller and vitamin thing. They are not really solving a problem. So smartwatch is a good to have. They're not solving none of my problems. I have no problem without smartwatch I cannot solve. So that's the type of solution. Now even if you have medical devices, for example, things which are coming up, which could have closer to the use cases as the individual might need, but many of those will require support which are beyond just your as a startup ecosystem. I need to work with hospitals, I need to work with the ecosystem where in that deployment is needed. Now that is not wherewithal within the individual startup to do that. So what end up happening, one that as a country we are good at copy paste. So if there is an idea available and I can also do it, and that's always I question ask when people come in between we had a huge raise of all this food tech, right? Fortunately, whatever happened, somewhere at least people like to feel happy that I think they're supposed to happen. You need to bust those kind of bubbles. Otherwise, people have wrong conceptions of how to build startups. Suddenly, you have within a week, have 10 startups landing, all of them want to do food tech. I said, man, how much India will eat here? And there is a limit. They already have 10 of them, they are funded, they're feeding everybody. You still want to, no, sir, we can build better UI, we can build better. That's not a need. So B2C, the challenge is that people are not innovating. People are not solving real problems. They are simply building cool stuff. And that's why investor interest you'll see slowly. B2C, there are e-commerce and other areas where they'll see the interest. IoT is not truly a B2C kind of thing. You have
the economies of scale.
Absolutely.
We have to go to a certain height. So the cost will come down.
For a company to buy them. Yeah, absolutely. So that works very differently. B2B, if you are able to crack it well and you are solving a problem, you have to do it once and then it's much easier for you to start with. B2C, I mean, I have to get excited as a consumer. It doesn't matter whether he buys or doesn't buy. I have to feel excited. And it doesn't need to solve my problem. I just need to like it. So that's the problem. That's why we believe, not that B2C is bad. All I'm saying that's very tough in India. And there's going to be one generation which will sacrifice. They will build cool stuff, they will do all that, but they will not make money. It is the next generation to do it. Thank you. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. So we come to the end of the show. I would invite you all to join us for IT and sort of continue the networking. I hope the day was informative, and more than anything else, this is the first. It's like we had a baby and this is our first party. So thank you all for coming. We hope to have more number of parties and bigger crowd. And thanks to NASSCOM for for giving us the opportunity to do this. I hope we put a reasonably good show. If there were problems, excuse my team on my behalf. It's a very young, small team inexperienced, so we barely put house parties together. So if we've gone anywhere wrong in hospitality, a few things have not fallen in place, please do excuse us. Send us feedback. Hopefully we'll be better next time around. But thank you so much for coming. I wish you all very safe travels to where you came from. And but now it's time for us to go and have some tea and catch up. Thank you.
Thank you.